Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
Hey, this is Tanner the Bulldozer Bozer.
Hi, this is Brian Burke from Toronto, Ontario.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Agro from Sportsnet Central.
This is Jay Onright.
This is Quick Dick coming to you from Tofnell, Saskatchewan.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Kelly Rudy.
This is Corey Cross.
This is Wade Redden.
This is Jordan Tutu.
My name is Jim Pattison.
Hey, it's Ron McLean, Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers Hometown Hockey, and welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy 2021. 2021. Let's say that again. 2021. Whew! Feels good to be out of 2020, let me tell you. One of the cool things I'm going to got going on this year, one of my goals for the podcast, besides releasing an episode every Monday, Wednesday, have no fear, 104 new episodes coming in 2021. Already excited about it. Got some cool guests that we're trying to get, some cool guests that we've gotten and they're going to come up. But overall, we're going to try and make 2021 a memorable year. I got a couple of goals here in 2021. First, a goal of mine has been is to be more interactive with you. Now, whether you're driving to work, maybe you're heading back from holidays, you're out in the tractor working, or maybe out for a walk, I want to hear what you folks think about the latest and greatest. So let's make it simple. In the show notes, I've posted my phone number. I'm going to post it on all the episodes moving forward. I'm going to retrace my steps and put it in every single one. So if you're listening, I want to hear what you think. So shoot me a text with suggestions, thoughts, or maybe you just want to chat. I'm looking forward to the possibilities of 2021, and I've learned pretty damn quick that some of the best possibilities come from you guys and guests you want to hear or thoughts you have on the show. And I want it to be interactive. So if you have ideas, let me know. So go to the show notes. In there's a phone number. Text me, and you're gonna get a hold of me. All right. Now the other thing is I'm when I start off shows, sometimes I don't get it right. Sometimes I screw up. Those are the so-called bloopers that nobody ever hears. And I'm going to start today, as I've already screwed up a couple times. Instead of deleting them, I'm going to save them, and they're going to go for bloopers after the show's done. So if you want to hear me call myself an idiot, by all means, stick around, and you can hear some of that. All right? Now, that's just a couple of the fun things. Let's start off with 2021 in a bang. We got a great guest today. He's a funny guy, but before we get there, let's get to today's episode sponsors. Carly Clausen, the team over at Windsor Plywood, builders of the podcast studio table. I cannot wait to have more guests in this studio. COVID needs to piss off already. For everything wood, these are the guys, whether we're talking about mantles, decks, windows, doors, or sheds. When you want quality, stop in and see the group at Windsor Plywood. Or, like I keep telling, just hop on your phone. Everybody's got it out. And look at their Instagram or Facebook page, their social media, and just look at the work they do. Or give them a call, nice and simple, 780-875-9663. Clay Smiley, Prophet River. The story goes, Clay always wanted a Cooper rifle, but was unable to find it in Canada. And it was then he decided to look into importing a Cooper from the good old US of A. In 2002, he did just that, importing that Cooper rifle from the States. And not long after, you can imagine, a friend reached out, then another, and then another. To the point where now in 2020, Prophet River has grown into a major retailer of firearms, optics, and accessories, and they serve all of Canada. So if you're listening to this anywhere in Canada and you want to, you got some gun-related, wants, asks, needs, go visit Prophet River at prophetriver.com and check them out today. They got you guys covered. Jen Gilbert and team want you to know for over 40 years, since 1976, the dedicated realtors of Coldwell Banker, Cityside Realty, have served Lloydminster and the surrounding community. They are passionate about our community, and they pride themselves on giving back through volunteer opportunities and partnerships as often as they can. They know that home is truly where awesomeness happens. Coldwell Banker, Cityside Realty, for everything real estate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 780-875-3343. The SNP billboard across from the UFA, a shout out to Read 'em Right and Deanna Wandler. if you're looking for some outside signage or some inside work, maybe you got a wall you want to put a quote on, this is the team you want to talk to. Deanna Wandler and the team over at Read and Write have done everything inside, from frosting the window with the logo to my quote on the wall, my logo on the wall, the billboard. They do exceptional work, and a shout out to Read and Write. If you're heading into any of these businesses, make sure, I know COVID is making that a little difficult, but if you do see them out and about or you stop in their businesses, make sure you let them know you heard about them on the podcast. And if you're interested in advertising on the show, go to SeanNewmanPodcast.com, top right corner, hit the contact button, and send me your info. There's still time to get involved. Wow, heck, who am I kidding? Still time. It's the beginning of 2021. Hop on. Let's have some fun. 2021, here we come. Here is your first T-Bar 1 Tale of the Tape. Originally from Camrose, Alberta, he placed second in the prestigious Seattle International Comedy Competition, a finalist at the Boston Comedy Competition, and won the 2007 Great Canadian Laugh-Off. He's now been in comedy for over 20 years. He's been around the world in different countries such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo, United Kingdom, and Norway. Has performed for the armed forces, is a part of the Snowed In Comedy Tour that stretches coast to coast here in Canada, over 60 Canadian cities, and finally is the co-host of the Microdose podcast. I'm talking about Paul Myrehaug. So buckle up, here we go.
Hello, this is Paul Myrehaug, or as most of you will probably know me, the guy that came on after Don Cherry. And you're listening to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast. Today, I'm joined by comedian Paul Myrehaug. I hope I said that right, because I'm sure that's only been tortured 1,000 million times.
The first time I ever was introduced on stage, the MC shook my hands and he was like, "What's your name?" And I said, "Myrehaug." And he said, "Ooh, I'd change that, kid. Anyway, have fun."
If you could pick an alter ego name, then what would you take for a last name? Or what would you take for a name?
I went through that phase because I kind of, heeded that advice. So I thought, maybe I should have a name that somebody could at least spell or find online. So, but I was an 18-year-old, douchebag moron. So I think I really wanted Paul Dimes. That was what I wanted. When I was 18, I wanted to be Paul Dimes.
Did you ever get introduced as it?
No, absolutely not. No, I didn't follow through. But that was 18-year-old me. If I had to choose now, I would probably either take my dad's, like my middle name, Gordon. So Paul Gordon might be all right, or shorten up the Myrehaug and just Paul Myers maybe. But douchebag me wanted Paul Dimes when I was 18.
Well, we all got Paul Dimes. Why Dimes? Do you remember why?
I have no idea. This is so embarrassing, but I remember being 18, like an amateur comedian, going to university, and I was practicing my autograph, and I thought, it'd be really cool if I could sign autographs as a comedian one day. And I just was signing Paul Dimes. I have no idea where it came from. I just thought it would be cool.
Now, for the listeners, viewers, whichever theux doing, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in the south of France, in a little village called Caux. This is it's where our house is, and just for geographical, it would be near Montpellier, so sort of closer to the Spanish side of the Riviera.
My dad is going to listen to this, and he's going to hate you or envy you, one of the two. He's been saying for years, since he was like, I don't know, since I was 15, so probably 20 years ago, that when he retires, he's going to retire to a villa in the south of France. You're essentially sitting there then.
Hey, right on. Well, hey, tell the old man there's lots of room in my house. You could have our guest. Yeah, it'll be. You said you're 8 o'clock right now. So for the listeners, it's noon here. He's drinking beer. I was like, what the hell? All right, we're going to do this. All right. So I had to pour myself a scotch. It is COVID rules, which means you can pretty much have a sarsaparilla whenever the hell you want. Right. Like, I mean, how are things over in the south of France right now? COVID wise,
Life-wise.
life wise, yeah. I mean, it's the off season here anyway. So it's always dead slow in January, February, December. It's I'd say 60% of the population leaves. So not many restaurants open. So really, the confinement or the lockdown, you don't even really notice it because it just sort of feels like every other winter it does here. It just everything's closed and people are on vacation, all the store owners and things like that. It's so yeah, I really don't notice much of a difference. And there is a curfew. You have to be in your house by 8 p.m., but they're a little bit more relaxed on the get together. So, for Christmas, we were able to get together, have dinner with people, went to a couple of things like that. So it seems a little bit more relaxed down here.
Curfew at 8?
Curfew at 8. Yeah, you got to be. So I had to go get a pizza in town in the big city, and I had to be on my high horse. I needed to get home before 8 p.m. So,
No kidding. They got check
Yeah.
stops, anything like that, or is it just kind of like, no, you're supposed to be in, nobody's out?
Yeah, there is. I mean, we live in such a sparsely populated area that I really haven't seen too many cops around, but there is definitely checkpoints and things like that. So, but even in the middle of the summer in our busiest season, I don't see too many cops around here. It's just there's not too many people around here.
Now, when you say small village, I think of small village, Saskatchewan, Alberta. How does it pair? I haven't said it yet, but you're originally from Camrose. Coming from small town Alberta to small town France, obviously you enjoy the small town France.
Yeah. It's great. It's and it's the same thing. It's just a bunch of people sitting on the street drinking Pilsner, fucking just guzzling, but just fucking guzzling. It's it's like I never left. It's awesome.
Except you're not drinking Pilsner. You're drinking a variation of Pilsner.
Yeah, Wahlbergs. Yeah.
Wahlbergs.
No, it works for me and my missus. We both travel for a living. So when I'm here, it's amazing because it feels like an oasis from a busy schedule. But to be honest with you, if I didn't have my career and I wasn't traveling all the time, I think it would be a little bit too slow for me here for sure.
Well, let's get into it then. You're originally from Camrose. Did you always want to be a comedian? I mean, you come from the land of hockey. I mean, it doesn't get any more hockey. I believe you're an Oilers fan still. I assume you're following along there it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. We're anticipating. I gotta put the hand. We're anticipating a hockey season here in January. Have you been watching the World Juniors? Because they've been on. We've been the old Team Canada, old 2-0 now. That's happening just like down the street, but nobody can watch it, of course, or nobody in the building. But I mean, you've been paying attention to any of the hockey over there?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I can't find a provider. I subscribe to NHL.com and to NFL, so I get the games as they come in, but I can't find a provider. I tried Sportsnet, it doesn't work in France. I tried TSN, it doesn't work in France, so I can't get these World Junior games.
You can't see the World Junior games?
No, and it's killing me because it's absolutely killing me. So I'm just sort of watching highlights and reading about it in the morning. But boy, they really beat the Germans back into the Sudetenland, didn't they? Jesus Christ! I thought I was, as soon as I opened up my eyes, I saw that score. I was like, what? That can't be right. 16 goals! Like it was amazing.
It was a good old fashioned ass whooping, and I had to turn it off. I was like, "Yep, it's 10. They still got the horn going. I'm done with this, right? Like they just rammed it down the throat, and I didn't feel bad for Canada. Like lots of people ragged on them, but I'm like, I don't know. It's I think it was 7-1 or 7-0. What was that? That was like not even halfway through the second period, and you're like, oh man, like you can't even take your foot off the pedal enough not to make it 10 or 11-1, right? And it just kept going and going and going, and you're like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
right? What are you going to do?
Yeah, and we didn't without our captain as well. Like, unbelievable. So yeah, I really wish I could watch it, but if I was home, if I was in Canada, I'd be watching every game. And yeah, diehard Oilers fan. And my original dream was to be a professional hockey player, but I played. I had an illustrious career. I got a knee injury, but I played on the Camrose Pirates, which was a AA bantam. So that's then my illustrious hockey career came to an end.
So, when then do you go? And I say this with probably all stupidity on my part. I just always grew up wanting to be a hockey guy or a sports guy for that matter. And so there's avenues everywhere for that. And I just know the avenues very well. To be a comedian, I don't know. How the hell do you even start? Like, did you just, I think I read somewhere that you were sneaking into bars at a young age, watching comedians. Like, is that how you fell in love with it? Or was it watching, a movie or two? What got you going like, man, that'd be a lot of fun?
Oh yeah. So I guess once the hockey dream ended, and even if I didn't have bad knees, I would have never made it. I don't have that like pit bull killer instinct like a lot of the guys that made the NHL that I played with. I just didn't have that absolute killer energy about me. But I started. I guess it was Saturday Night Live, Chris Farley and all those guys, Adam Sandler. I had their Sandler's album, They're All Gonna Laugh at You. I listened to it on repeat in the car nonstop. I knew every word of it, every skit Farley did, so that sort of got me interested in it. And I always looked older for my age, so that is true. I would go down to the Raven. It was a nightclub in Camrose called the Raven, and they used to have comics in. So I would sneak in underage to watch. But I don't know if they have this in Lloyd, but in Camrose, if you knew there was an underage person in the bar, you could rat them out, and you would get a free pitcher of beer. It was sort of a self-policing.
If they implemented that now in COVID, they got the snitch line. If they put a free pitcher of beer on that, the entire population would be drunk and probably in jail. So yes, yeah, absolutely. I do remember that.
Wasn't that a beautiful system? So that was one of my remember because I was watching a comic who
I got to say, I don't know if that was in Lloyd. I remember that in Edmonton. I can't remember if that was in Lloyd or not. Lloyd might not have cared, but that was for sure in Edmonton. And obviously if it was in Camrose, but I do remember those days.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But I remember watching a comic who actually I've never met before again, and his name's Jim Fuchs. He's from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and he was hilarious. And somebody ratted me out at the Raven, and I got put in a wrist lock by the bouncers and carried out. And then I was walking by the table. They were like, "Hey, have a good night, Myrehaug." Fuck that! Like I was getting chirped on the way out by the older crowd that ratted me. It's ridiculous. But so yeah, I fell in love with it around 14, 15, 16, and then to get started really. At my era in 2000, I started in 2000. It was very easy. There was a national system called Yuck Yucks. All you had to do was go to West Edmonton Mall, sign up for amateur night. You would listen to the headliner that week, would talk for an hour in a workshop. So you would listen to the headliner speak for an hour. And then when it was your time, you got about one spot every month, and you'd go up there and away you go. So I started at the West Edmonton Mall Yuck Yucks, and it went from there.
Wow. Okay. First off, I didn't realize that was that easy. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me it was that easy. I mean, there has to be a system in place. It's not like you just, if you want to have good comedians come through, you got to make it accessible for them to sign up. How was the first time? I think, for the listeners, viewers, the last time we did get a start and then the internet just wouldn't, whatever. France didn't want to talk to me, I guess. I heard we briefly talked and you said the first time isn't the tough time. The second time is, and maybe we could start with the first and then talk about the second, because to me, getting up in front of, everyone knows this, probably one of the most terrifying things in the world is standing in front of an audience, right? And then I assume what's even more terrifying is trying to make them laugh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The first time, and I don't know, we call that getting bit. So either you're going to try it, and a lot of people are afraid of public speaking, but if you get bit and you try it, and it really is funny. You can see it in people's eyes that you're like, oh, they're going to do it forever. And I was just one of those person that I did it one time, and that was it. I was like, I'll do this for the rest of my life, even if I don't get paid for it. I'm going to do this. It's so addicting. It's like a drug, it's unbelievable. Once you find a way to elicit that laughter and start to learn the craft, it's great. But the first time I didn't realize this, but West Edmonton Mall Yuck Yucks, in Alberta in general, actually, the Calgary Comedy Club as well. I didn't know that they were the easiest comedy clubs in Canada. So headliners that were coming through, and still today that come to Edmonton and Calgary, they crush. You don't even, it's just, the rooms are magical. Their big crowds are so friendly. They laugh at everything. But I was an amateur that started there. I didn't really have the benefit of that knowledge. So when I walked up the first time, it went really well. I mean, it was better than I expected. It was amazing. And then I had that confidence going into the second time, and I was immediately punched in the mouth. It was absolutely horrific, because I walked up there with a little bit of jam in my shake, and like, oh yeah, I got this. I'll be a professional in 10 seconds. And that nervous energy of new person trying out stand up wasn't there. The crowd wasn't on board with me. They didn't want me to do well because I was a cocky freak, and I bombed. The second time was fucking atrocious. And I remember one of my billet's father was there. I used to have a billet named Aaron Grossel, who still is in the hockey industry down in the States, but and his dad's got a very, very recognizable laugh, and I could hear his dad's laugh for every other performer. And when I got on stage, there was nothing, and not even his. I was just praying to God that my friend would save me. I mean, even him was like, "Good luck, you fucking you're the worst."
So what do you do after that? You just walk off stage, and now you got to go sit with your buddies, and they didn't even laugh?
Oh yeah, it was brutal. First of all, I learned the lesson that never bring friends to a show when you're that new, So I think the first show I did, I must have passed out 50 tickets, all my friends and family, and the second one as well. But then after that, I didn't pass out anything. I really didn't tell people when I was on stage until I got some confidence. But it was so embarrassing. And afterwards, of course, they're like, hey, it wasn't that bad, and all those patronizing
bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, bullshit. Yeah. And you want to crawl in a hole and die. Awful.
Well, people's words speak louder than action, or people's actions speak louder than words, right? So you get those.
Yeah.
They didn't laugh once. You weren't that bad. It wasn't that bad, right?
Yeah. And their voice goes up like 4 octaves. It was pretty good. Yeah. It's awful.
When did you you said something there? You said there's a gap between being kind of like an amateur and professional. When do you feel the switch? Like, when do you go from I don't know what the fuck I'm doing to like, wow, I'm kind of feel, not that you aren't having the odd bomb night. I'm assuming no matter what you do, certain crowds you just can't even you just can't even prepare for. But when do you feel the switch from like amateur to like, okay, I got something here?
Yeah, again, it was a little bit more cut and dry back in the day when I was starting. So they had a bit of a system you went through. Started as an amateur, which were on Tuesday nights. And then if you were good enough, they'd move you to Wednesday nights, and that was called Young Gun Night. So
you were moving up in the farm system, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody knew it. Hey, if I can get off this bloody Tuesday night and on to Wednesday, I'm on the right track.
Totally. And once you started doing Wednesdays, you got a little bit of money. And then if you were doing the Young Gun Night, they would give you spots on the weekend. And that was huge because the clubs would be sold out. The big fancy headliner from Toronto or Los Angeles was in, and you get to do 7-8 minutes on the weekend, and that was a big step. And and then eventually you started getting full weekends. So Thursday through Sunday, you get paid every show. You'd be in the middle, you're only doing 20 minutes or something. But even then, you don't feel like a professional. I don't think I felt like that's an interesting question, because I guess when I don't know. I guess it's finally when you're not worrying about money. There's enough work coming in that you don't have to worry about earning a living, and then finally, I guess I felt like a professional. And another nice story is when your parents finally trust that you're going to be okay in life. That was a big moment for me.
Paul's gonna be okay, hon. Paul's gonna be okay.
Yeah. And I think that's when I felt like a professional, because I remember that specific moment, and all the bricks were lifted off my shoulders. But I got asked to do a military tour in Afghanistan, and it was with the Governor General of Canada and the top ranking officer, General Nintinchuk, and Peter MacKay, who was the Minister of Defense, and me. And we're going to go to Afghanistan, and those guys would talk. There was a singer-songwriter as well. And then I would close the evening. And we spent the Christmas holidays in Afghanistan. I remember my mom saying, I said I couldn't come home for Christmas, and I'm going to go to Afghanistan with the Governor General. And my mom said, officially, she was like, you know what? I think you're going to be all right. And I was like, yeah, finally. I got it only took 16 years, but I got the seal of approval from my parents.
So it took you 16 years then to finally be like, yeah, okay. Now, obviously, you're successful in those 16 years. But for you, what you're saying is at the 16-year mark, that's when it goes, boom. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm here. The confidence of everybody around me, they see what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Probably around year 15, 16. Yeah, I'd say that. And within the comic circle, they say that you don't even start sounding like yourself on stage until after year 20. And I just hit year 20, and I always thought that was bullshit, but now I understand what those guys were saying. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm only just now able to walk up there and just talk like me, be myself. And it's taken 20 years, and I still have tons to learn.
Fuck, that's crazy. In what I do, interviewing people and talking to people, a lot of successful personalities on, you've learned from this toothless face. I love hockey, and we started off with that. A lot of them have said 2 years to find yourself on a national broadcast, to understand how your personality. And at the start, I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, 2 years. But you kind of start to feel it like, no, that makes sense. There's just certain things you're very comfortable with and certain things you're not comfortable. But when you go 2 to 20 years, how many people are really willing to put in the time? Well, that's a lot of time. I mean, and once again, it's not like you haven't had any success up to 20 years. But it wasn't like you had like smashing success out the gates, and in the first year, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, it's like, man, not many people would be willing to put in the time to do what you do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you really have to be something wrong with you inside your head to to go after. And lately I'm thinking that a lot because COVID, because I sat back and I realized, like, I've dedicated my entire life. It's way too late to start any sort of like, oh, I'm going to go to law school. I'm an old man now. I can't go to law. Yeah. So I'm like, holy shit, you have completely dedicated your whole existence from you were 18 to now on this ridiculous career. And I really truly believe you have to be a little bit sick in your head to keep on going. And isn't that the definition of what what is it? A psychopath or
Insanity?
being crazy? Insanity.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Mhm.
I don't know. When I listen to you and you, to me, and this is just to me, I mean, you're not Chris Farley. You haven't had, rest in peace, but you haven't had the uber success of Saturday Night Live followed by all these crazy movies and everything. But you're not Joe Blow sitting at Yuck Yucks right now trying to start out either. I mean, like, geez, you've gone and done some things, and there's something to hang your hat on there.
Yeah. I always say that I'm a fourth liner. Like I'm in the NHL. I'm a black ace. I get called up and
Fourth
down.
liners win cups too.
Exactly. And I'm so happy with my career. And it also doesn't come with a lot of bullshit to being, a giant star either. I mean, like I don't have to worry about, people saying awful things to me online or being called, all that nonsense, all the stress. And of course, would I like the millions of dollars? Sure. But, I do big venues, I've been lucky enough. I do theater tours in Europe and in Canada. And I'm playing NHL venues, but I'm just a grinder. And because of that, I also fit into a lot of different scenarios. Like they can use me on a military tour. They can put me on television in the UK to do little spots. They can use me in difficult, rough bars in Scotland, because I have that Northern Alberta training where I can.
You're the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm very proud of that. I wouldn't change much. It's a cool, I can work. I think I've worked in 46 different countries around the world. So, there's no shortage of work. I can do what I love, and it's fine. It's all right.
46 countries. Geez, that's something. What when you look back across it and look at the 46, is there a group of people that are just tough to get to laugh? Like I talk about different rooms and different. You can narrow in as micro as you want, but let's go a little bigger. Is there a country when you go in there and you go, oh, this is going to be tough. I got to make sure I have my whatever dotted and crossed.
Absolutely. And it's the Netherlands. The Netherlands is extremely tough for stand-up comics. And I play clubs in Amsterdam and play them a lot. There's an English comedy festival there. But Dutch crowds and all comics agree with, they enjoy the comedy, but they're not like, they'll sort of give you a little bit of a golf clap when they see that you've done your skit. Is how they do it. And it's horribly awkward, very, very awkward. They're a very difficult group of people to get like rolling around like Americans,
So will they get rolling around like Americans or no? That isn't their, because when you think of Americans or Canadians, right? We go to I think of going to even Yuck Yucks. You got a pregame, and then you got to have some pregame on the pregame, right? So that anything seems funny, right? Like, I mean, you're there for a good time. You want everything to be funny that night, right? Like, hell, that's what you're there for. You're there for a good time. So you get you go down a certain avenue in order to do that. Now, in the Netherlands, do they get there, or are they always the slow clap? I like that, right? Like, good job. That was good. I chuckled. I had a deep belly laugh for a little bit, and that was it.
I'm trying to answer that honestly. So the last 2 times I was there, I was with guys way above my pay grade. I don't know if you know Arj Barker, who's he's from Flight of the Conchords and a bunch of David Letterman appearances. He's an American guy that's really big in Australia. I don't know if you know that name.
Well, I know Flight of the Conchords quite well, but the name I can't think of off the top of my head. No, I don't recognize it. But in saying that, if I know Flight of the Conchords, chances are I know exactly who the guy is.
Yeah. So, and he's deadly funny. I think he did like 7 Lettermans or something. He's super funny, and he's a dear friend of mine. And we both share the sentiment that when I watched him on stage do his hour, it was, it's a grind there. It's a grind. But I also watched a Dutch comic that evening, and he got it rolling. He fucking crushed. And then the two English speakers that went up, we had a hard time. So maybe it's more of a prejudice thing that that the Dutch don't like American accents. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, let's go the complete opposite. Where do you just love coming back to? You love coming back to Canada? Like, is Canada the sweet spot because you're Canadian and you just get to come back and the culture so well and everything like that? Or is there a different place that you just love going because of their uniqueness?
Yeah, so there's way more on that list. And Canada is beautiful because without just looking at me, like when I walk on stage, people immediately get an impression of who I am. They know, I'm from Alberta. Maybe I'm wearing a plaid shirt. People make an assumption about, so before you get to the microphone, they're like, okay, look at this fucking Yahoo from Camrose. They understand my character immediately, and they get on board with it. And you can talk, of course, local references, and I know specific jokes about every province and territory I'm in. So Canada is definitely the sweet spot. But I would say Scotland, unbelievable place to go. Ireland, unbelievable place. Norway, unbelievable. And a lot of England, like Brighton, Manchester, the Comedy Store in London. I mean, I have equal love for Estonia. Estonia is
Estonia?
Incredible audiences. Incredible.
Tell me about Estonia. There is one country that I gotta assume 99.9% of my listeners have never graced.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. So for you listeners, it is in between. Well, it's right underneath Finland. So you got to cross the sea to get to Finland, and Riga is right below it. So it's sandwiched in between those two countries. It was Russian, it was part of the Russian curtain. Only in '93 did they get released from the Soviet curtain. So for them, live stand-up comedy, live performances, anything of that sort are so new to them, and they feel so lucky to be able to like freely go to a place and watch people speak freely and swear and have freedom of speech. And that this is all very new to them. So the comedy is just fucking gangbusters. You could just put up a sign that says stand-up comedy, you'll sell 600 tickets. It is fucking incredible time. And just a great population that I really think sees the good side of life, because they've had it so rough so recently that now it's become one of the tech capitals of the world. They're a world
Estonia?
leader in tech. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. They're in as far as like technology for everything being cashless and connected to bank accounts, and everywhere where it has Wi-Fi. Estonia is they're like leaps and bounds ahead of lots of countries. They're very tech savvy, and it's a boom situation there. So just a wonderful place to be.
Wow, I never would have. That wouldn't have crossed my mind. I got to be very clear. It's interesting when you talk about freedom of speech and things like that. That's something very foreign to Canadians and North Americans, for that matter. Estonia. I'll have to put that on the bucket list of places to venture to then. I played hockey in Finland, so I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was a stone throw from it, but never explored as much as a guy would have liked to experience different parts of that little chunk in there.
Okay. Oh, well, you'll love this story because the Finns, every Canadian knows that the Finns are the hardest drinkers out of all the hockey. It's the Finns, right? Here they are. Like, it's insane, those guys.
Some of my favorite stories come from drinking with the Finns, yes.
It's crazy, man. They're crazy. So in between, so you do the gig in Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia, and then your next gigs are in Finland. So there's a ferry between the two countries. And the first time I took it, I think it was at 11 a.m. Alcohol is so expensive in Finland that Finnish people bring, those like moving dollies that you move furniture with.
Yeah.
They load on the ship with an empty dolly, and then there's a liquor store on the other side inside the ferry terminal in Tallinn. So they all come off the boat, they fill up those dollies with liquor. And then they pull it back onto the boat, and then they cruise home. So I'm on the way home, and this whole ferry ride is just built. It's 11 a.m. and it's built for the Finns to get fucking smashed. There is discos, pub quizzes, there's dance competitions, and everybody's got their giant dolly full of whatever vodka that they're carrying across. It was balls to the wall, like college dorm room party at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday or whatever. It was, the Finns are insane, man. It's hilarious.
Well, I always tell the story, and now things might have changed. This is a few years ago now. I assume it has not. But at the time, chewing tobacco was illegal to sell in Finland. So we'd be on a road trip going to one of the northern towns in Finland, and we get close to the Sweden border. So what the bus would do, take an hour detour, cross about 10 feet into the Swedish border, and there'd be this store, like a gas station, built for chewing tobacco. And you'd walk in, and it was like going to get a can of Coke from a corner store, right? These cooling refrigerators built all the way to the roof, as high as you can see, filled with chewing tobacco. And the entire team would bust in there, buy bagfuls, throw it on, including the bus driver, the coach, I mean, everybody. And then we'd carry on to our hockey game. And I'm looking around going, this is the most insane but cool experience I'll probably ever have, right? Like, I mean, who goes out of their way on their way to a big hockey game because they can't literally buy chew in their country, but right across the border, you certainly can. It wasn't illegal to chew. It was illegal to sell chew, right? So there's this little store just making $1 million sitting right across the border. It was a super cool experience. So I understand the booze thing.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's hilarious. And I'm surprised. The same thing happens in Norway because they border Sweden as well. So when you're on tour, the north, and are you surprised how many of them chew to, like the women, all the girls?
The girls.
Yeah, just upper deckers, not even lower deck, fucking top shelf. Boom, throw it in there. Incredible.
Oh man, it was a fun time there. It was Finland was some of the nicest people I ever met came from Finland. I love Canada. Everybody knows I love Canada. I've been across Canada. I think we got great people all across this country. But Finland, no matter where I went, they were just like absolute sweethearts. But they did crazy things like that. They have the party boat that goes from not Helsinki, it's a town a little further up, and goes across the sea to Sweden. And the entire ship is just there to party. And you get on the boat and it's a ferry ride, but it's a party barge. My brother's been across it, and he just talks the world about it. And all I did was go there and play hockey. That's all I did. Play hockey, visit where Santa Claus supposedly lives, see one of his crazy movies that I can't even remember what it was called. It was fantastic. It was all in Finnish. It had English subtitles, but it was about Santa Claus being a monster. And if you get to see that movie, it was fantastic. That'll change Santa Claus for you.
Right on. Yeah, I'll look out for it. Did you run into my buddy Josh Green over there?
I didn't.
Did you play? No?
I can't say I did. No.
All right. Yeah, he played over. He played for a bunch of NHL teams, but he's a Camrose boy, and he played. He finished up in Finland, so I wondered if you ran into him.
I can't say I did. For people wondering everybody always asks this, Paul. They go, "How on earth do you find these people?" I gotta throw a shout out to Mr. Falsher, because without Falsher, I don't know who you are. And I want to know the dirt. So Dallin lives with your family for what? What would that have been? A couple months?
Well, yeah, let me clear that up right away. Dallin never he wasn't billeted by my family. He just wouldn't leave the couch. He was like he was like he was like a raccoon that came in one day and you couldn't get the guy off. Like he found my mom's pantry full of food, and then you just like you just
Yep, this is home. This is home. They're not pushing too hard. I'm staying here.
Exactly, and you couldn't get rid of him, and we would never want to. He is one of my favorite humans in the world, just an absolute delight. So so that's how that went down. He wasn't officially with my family, but he just decided that's it.
Well, you must have, other than him being a raccoon, you must have a fun story about Dallin that you can share.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dallin's so my parents, I really loved having hockey billets because, I don't know if it's like every parent, but my family and my extended family didn't necessarily enjoy the younger generation getting drunk. Like you could have a few drinks, but they never liked to see you get like, toilet licking smashed. And I gotta thank Falsh Dallin for introducing that to my family.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah, because I remember the specific moment because I think it was maybe it was a year-end wrap-up, or maybe they won the playoff series, and all the billet families and everybody got together, and Dallin and the boys were smashed. And I remember my mom saying, like, Dallin's one of the best people I've ever met, and he was so drunk. And I was like, yeah, like you can drink and be awesome. Like it's and I really think that changed my parents' perception about getting smashed. They themselves drink a little bit, but not Falchier style. So it's
the Falchiers have all been on the podcast. I had a brothers roundtable with the Falchiers, so I sat down with all three of them, Dustin, Dallas, and Dallin, in their father's Harley bar in the garage. Very cool. And when you say Falchier, Smat, you were bang on, because I sat down and no quicker had I like set up the mics, and they're already too deep, and they're like, "Hey, you have one?" I'm like, yeah. So I grabbed one, and I'm trying to set things up, and the boys are after it. They were having a good time.
Yeah. They're so funny, man. Yeah. And I remember, and he was up for anything because he would come home, after curfew or whatever, I'm sure. And we lived in town. See, my parents, we had a farmhouse. We moved, my dad got transferred to Vancouver. And when we got transferred back to Camrose, they wouldn't sell that farmhouse back to my dad. So we had to get a house in town. But my mom still had horses out at that farm. So she used to go out there late at night and Falsh would come home smashed and say to Yvonne, like, fuck it, let's go feed those horses. And he used to go on, like, most nights he would be drunk going out to the farm with my mom, feeding the horses, changing the blankets. And like, he's just like, fuck, he's just a great guy. Like, he is amazing, amazing fella.
Dallin, that's awesome. I do appreciate. Always love hearing the stories about the locals and how they impact outside the locality. And for it to be, I had Glenn Healy on. Actually, it came out today. It came out today.
Ooh.
And Glenn played back for the LA Kings. That's who he started out for. Yeah. And JP Kelly is a guy from Lloyd who coached me and played for the Kings back in the day. And I said, so what was JP like in the dressing room? And he goes on this long story about how JP had a bucket of beer here and a bucket of beer over there and a bucket of beer in the shower. And JP was drinking. I'm like, that's the story of Lloyd right there, right? Like, we do enjoy our Pilsners. That is true.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good, and we had another, he's from, what is it? Paradise Valley?
Yeah, PV.
Is that right?
Okay.
PV, yeah. And I emceed his wedding too, but he's very James Willis, who's around
Okay.
that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my family billeted Willis as well. So we had a couple of the Lloyd area fellas, and they're like, every person I meet from Lloyd is fucking hilarious, man. It's it's awesome. The comedy shows I used to do as a kid in Lloydminster were very difficult, but
Where did you do the comedy shows in Lloyd?
It was a Spanish themed nightclub. What was it? Amigos.
Amigos?
Amigos. It would be at Amigos. Oh, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. And I had a joke that I carried for years because I was really young. They stopped doing shows at Amigos. I think they only did a few.
Amigos was the hit when I was a kid, and then the cooler kind of came in, and then Amigos disappeared, but it's back. Amigos is the bar now. Well, I mean, if you go to the bar, yeah, you know me, I started this thing off with 3 kids, and I got to leave and come here and drink scotch with you at noon, and it's been fantastic. But Amigos is back if you're up tearing up the bar scene, yeah.
Oh yeah, right on. Okay. But I remember I saw somebody passed out under a urinal at Amigos, and it was I carried that.
Poor spot.
Oh man, the poor guy. And you Lloyd boys were not giving him a break on it either. It was fucking full face washes. It was nasty.
That would be you bastards for peeing on them. But can you imagine waking up and being like, what is that? Right? Like, oh, that's a terrible thought.
Oh man, brutal.
That joke just kind of writes itself for you. How much time do you spend researching and developing your material?
Whew. Well, I have to write I have to have a brand new 25 minutes every year that's theater quality. So I need a well-structured 25 minutes with, a good opening. I need short little jokes for transitions, and then a big closer that's going to get an applause break. And it takes me my tour, theater tour usually ends in about March, maybe first week in April. And I start writing for it the second week in April. And it's a fucking panic until January 1st again. So it takes me a good 7 to 8 months to write 25 minutes that is serviceable for a theater audience. So, and just like anything in life, I guess you don't really do it unless there's a gun to your head. So if without those tours, I wouldn't spend too much writing, but because of the sheer terror to try to make, knowing that I have to have this material ready to go, I write a lot. I write a lot.
So 2 things come to mind. The average person is going to say 25 minutes, shit. That isn't that long, but I assume 25 minutes on stage is a lifetime.
Oh God, yeah, and it's not even really a heavy pace because guys like the top dogs in the industry, Bill Burr and all those guys, they're pumping out an hour a year, 60 minutes. But I've never been very good in school or spelling or writing, so I can only do about half of what the big boys do. But 25 minutes on stage is an eternity. It's a long time.
The second thought is you can't regurgitate some of the stuff you've done over the past 20 years?
No, because these tours are people coming back to see you every year. So we have a rule that you can't repeat one joke that you've told on a past tour. So you need to have a completely fresh 25.
Really? So you're saying there is somebody out there, or maybe lots of people, who for 20 years have seen you from 18 all the way up to where you're at?
Well, no, because I've only been doing the theater tour for 8 years. So that's when I would have started that heavier pace of writing. And I've been doing the European theater tour for 5 or something like that. So that's when I had to keep up that pace. If you saw me before that, you would have seen the same old you know, having sex with a cougar, throwing a French fry in the air, petrified seagull bullshit that I was peddling for about 13 years.
So do you enjoy then having to the 25-minute? Do you enjoy that? Like, as a comedian, is that like that's the bee's knees? That's kick ass.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's completely changed my love for comedy. It's before I was forced, before I was put in a pressure situation for the theater tours. You know, it's a bit soul crushing going out there and doing the same goddamn material every time, and then you're not even really doing it for the art. You're more doing it for going from city to city to party, basically, because you could just talk that dumb routine that I've been doing for 13 years. I don't even need to be in the moment on stage to do it. It just comes out of your mouth. You got no soul behind it. So until I was put in this situation where I needed to create, yeah, I adore it, because now I use the comedy clubs like in the UK and in Canada to, instead I use it to create material. So every show now I'm scared and I'm doing a new joke in the middle of a headlining set that I don't know which way it's going to go. And, you know, probably 1 out of every 3 jokes that you try sucks. So, you know, it's dangerous. And you're in the moment, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
But that's a hell of a fucking feeling. That rush of like something new and you don't know the outcome.
Yeah.
There's something there. That's addictive.
Oh, it's addictive. Hell yeah, yeah. And to see it fly too. Like I just had I've done 2 weeks of work this year, but I had a concept for a closing joke for the next tour, and it was just lucky that it just started working right away. I mean, right the first time I told it, it was 7 minutes of pure fun. And when you see it take off, just some dumb idea that it's so addicting. It's like snowboarding. It's fun.
Does your brain ever turn off from comedy then? Like, can you just like go to a family Christmas and not see some humor starting to pop out of different situations? Like, can you turn that side of your brain off? Or is it just always firing?
Yeah. I think you can turn it off. Like, oh yeah, I can turn it off and just be a nephew or a grandkid or something. You know, but come to think of it, I do take a lot of notes at family reunions on my phone. So,
So you're in the middle of a family reunion, hopped on the phone. Grandma just did X, and Billy just whatever. That's what you're doing?
Yeah, because I do have like.
There's Paul the comedian over in the corner again, typing on his phone. Meanwhile, all you're doing is you're just analyzing everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, you know what? That's bullshit. I guess I can't turn it off because I have like tons of jokes. I have this great aunt, Chris, and she knows about the jokes, and they're like, you know, I'm not taking the piss out of her or anything. She's just a delightful human. And, but I have lots of jokes about her. And so, yeah, you're right. I guess I can't turn it off. You learn to look at the world as an observer and and always be asking why, like, why would we do that? Or why would, and questioning everything. And I guess it's hard to turn off now that I think about it, for sure. And I have notes in my phone. There's probably 5,000 notes in my phone, just about random bullshit.
You know, when you go back to saying getting bit, you talk about comedians, you can see when a person on their first time gets bit, or you talk about not being able to turn it off. I just, when I played hockey, I think there's guys who just, they fall into sport, or it doesn't have to be hockey, be anything. I think getting bit goes to anything. And when I first started this, February 2019, the first time I did it, I went, wow, that's something. That was something, right? And then you just fast forward, and it's addictive, which is, you know, I'm speaking directly to what you've been talking about with comedy. It's addictive. it's there's this rush of when you try something new, when you bring a comedian on for the first time. I tell you what, I'm always petrified. Like if I stayed in the wheelhouse of hockey player
Yeah.
all my life, it's probably a successful recipe because I understand it. I've been relatively successful at it, right? Like I've had some success on the hockey world of having guys come in, but there is something just fun about having something that is completely out of the recipe. Oh, it's whoever, and we're going to talk about their career. We're going to have some fun stories about NHL and blah blah blah. Oh, we're going to do that again. We're going to rinse and repeat. But you mentioned the kind of the soul in it, the art form of comedy, and I hope that's what I do for my listeners all the time, because I'm intrigued by that, because if you regurgitated the same thing over and over and over again, although it will be funny if it's the first time you've heard it, or enjoyable maybe the first or third time you've heard it, I feel like it just kind of gets old over time. And talking about the soul in comedy, I think there's the same thing could be said about anything in life. And the soul, like when you say that about comedians, the guy who comes to mind is Dave Chappelle. When I watch Dave Chappelle, every time he just looks like he's having fun, and there's all the range of emotions with him. Bill Burr is another guy. Bill Burr is fantastic. Like there's something to be said about those guys and how they can just see the world and be almost fearless in what they say and the reaction they're going to get. And that probably takes time. And you probably, doing it as long as you have, understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, with those two, it takes somebody really special. Oh yeah. And by the way, congratulations on yours. Because when you approached me and then I looked up your podcast and the first thing that came up was Ron MacLean. And then I was like, what a fall from grace. This guy's going to have Ron MacLean and then Paul fucking Myrehaug on this podcast.
You know who my last two have been, Paul? You know who you're following now?
Glenn Healy. I know that.
And Don Cherry right before that.
Oh my God.
So Don Cherry, Glenn Healy, Paul. That's who we got.
How are you even taking this seriously right now?
I love it. I tell you what, somebody at the beginning told me, before I let you answer, somebody told me right at the beginning, and they're probably right. The quickest way to success would be to follow that train ride, that wave, that big hill, and follow Don Cherry with Glenn Healy and follow it with another NHLer and another NHLer and another. I get bored. And so I love throwing curveballs in. And from the listeners who follow along, they love a curveball too. They love hearing about a comedian from, Camrose, which brings it local, but sitting over in Paris and the stories and the lifestyle. It's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. That's unbelievable. Don Cherry.
Don fucking Cherry. We can say the fucking word in there. Apologies, mom, earmuffs. Get them on. Because it was cool. That's one off the bucket list.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Okay, cool. How long did you have him motor mouthing for? Did he do
an hour?
Oh my God. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Nice get. Congratulations.
Well,
dude.
thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I look at it the same way. I think from what I'm hearing from you is I don't look at it the 5-year game. I look at I'm 34 right now. And maybe podcasting changes over time and it turns into something a little bit different. But I really hope by 54 in 20 years, I'm still doing it, which means that, when you listen to a guy like Joe Rogan and hear how good he is and like the guests he gets on, he's been doing it for, 12 years now, 9, 10 years, whatever it is. And he's in his 50s. So it just means he's 20 years advanced from me. And he's just, I enjoy how he does it. There's going to be haters of that. There's going to be haters of anything that in life, right? And as long as you're having fun with it and enjoying the ride, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I completely agree. And to your point about Burr and Chappelle on the same thread, it's kind of like me knowing right at the front of this interview, I knew, I could play hockey. I was pretty decent. I was good. I played in the summer leagues in Vancouver. But I knew I didn't have that pit bull madman, I didn't
mentality.
Have it to go, I just didn't do it. And, like I'm a successful comedian, but, when I look at Chappelle and Burr, if you take an honest look at it, like for some reason inside of me, I'm a little bit too worried about what people are going to think if I say a certain thing that's on my mind, and those guys don't give a fuck. They're built that way. They'll say whatever. They just don't care. They do not care. And, and you sort of have an honest look at yourself as a performer, and you're like, well, I don't quite have that gear. I'm still going to be placating to the audience a little bit, where these guys are just built the way they're like, you get on board, or you can, or fuck off. I don't care. I don't care if you don't like me. And I still, so there's differences like that I really, really admire in those guys, and still work towards today to be a little bit more fearless. Even after 20 years, I'm still working on being fearless.
Well, you watch Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is, damn it, he's on the bucket list. I know that's a, I get that one. Paul will come give me a parade probably, but I watch him, like the videos of him back when he was like, what was it, 18 or 19, and he's on David Letterman, and you're like,
yeah.
And then you hear the skitty. It wasn't like something like fluffy for a comedian to talk about. It was like, race jokes and stuff that was, when you think of the time, that's pretty ballsy to walk out as a young guy and do that. But obviously that's what got him spotted, and that put him on the map. But and to your point about being conscious of who you are, that's a fair point. I was saying to Don, one of the things you love about Don Cherry, and it ended up getting him canned in the end, right? Is his filter was non-existent. He said what was on his mind, and he meant it at all times. And a lot of us are cognizant of, well, maybe we shouldn't say this at this point because this room won't adjust to that and whatever else. And as a host, I'm going with the flow. I'm not a Don Cherry. And Don Cherry, well, there's a reason why he's Don Cherry. And there's a reason why Dave Chappelle is Dave Chappelle. And they have a way, and that's special. It's very special to watch. Yeah.
And it's special to have the wiring to just don't care. They just don't care. They don't care what the hell anybody thinks about it. It's amazing.
You say that, but what I did find interesting about Don Cherry is I asked him the first time the critics got on him, right? Because I mean, like on a national level, he says some of the things he says, and they must have berated him. And you could tell he was thinking back to it, and he was just like, no, the first time hurt. And the first time I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, I get that. It was a very human side of Don Cherry for a brief 15 seconds on the entire interview where you're like, and I bet you Dave Chappelle has felt the same thing, right? To like expose yourself that much to the world is, it's showing vulnerabilities. And if there's anything you've probably learned on the world is no matter how good of a person you ever are, there's still going to be somebody who hates you. Always.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There is no pleasing everybody. That's for sure.
You must have had, how many years have you been doing comedy now?
20.
So you 20 on the button.
20 on the button. Yeah, I started in 2000. So 2000, and right on my birthday, May 25th, 2000, I started.
Okay. So in 20 years, who is the most memorable heckler you've ever had? Where you just wanted to walk out and swat him?
Oh, God. Good question. I mean, the one, and I actually took the scary thing he said to me, and I use it in a joke about how Canadians start a fist fight. But it was in Lethbridge. It was a gig called the Blarney Stone in Lethbridge. And when I was on stage, I was, I do a lot of crowd work. I talk to people, and I was talking to obviously a table of brawlers. I mean, these guys were just like you, like a backwards hat, fucking, like I was a kid.
Fucking backwards hats, bastards.
Yeah. But you could just tell they've been into some altercations, and I was opening. I must have been 19 years old, and I said something to one of them, and he said, "Watch your fucking mouth, or I'm gonna punch the eyebrows off your face." And that always that has stuck in my mind the whole time. But somebody came to my defense, and they're like, "Don't do that, man. He's just a kid. He's trying his best." And he's like, "Why don't you fucking?" And then a full-scale brawl broke out. And instead of leaving the stage, I just held onto the microphone and I did the hockey announcements for the brawl. There must have been 20 guys fighting. Like cops showed up, and I just gave people nicknames of who they looked like. So one guy had a big nose. I was like, "Whoa, Tim Hunter takes a giant left to the," and I just did the hockey announcement for this brawl. It was that experience really sticks out to me. But that line, it shook me to my core. "I'll punch the eyebrows off your face." I thought, how descriptive. Very good line, sir. Very good line.
That's got to be the most Canadian thing ever. Getting an absolute brawl at a comedy show, and it started by defending the comedian. You're an asshole. Let's go at it ourselves, not the comedian jumping off the stage.
Yeah. That was incredible. And I'll tell you another scary one. It was in London, one of my first gigs in London, England, when I'd moved there. Same thing. I usually find trouble and I go at it head on. I figure that's the best policy. Just get it on the table and go at the tough guys equally as tough. I just go right down their throats, and it works for me. So there was a geezer in the bar, a real tough guy, and I said something to we had. That's a
geezer. All right.
Yeah. London geezer. Like, "Oh, he might fucking oh, you might," like a geezer, right? But he walked up on stage, right on stage, and the whole rest of the crowd went ooh, and he was wearing a tracksuit, South London guy, and he handed me the beer, and I was like, "What's this for?" And he said, "So when you get stabbed in the parking lot after the show, everybody will know it was me." And then he walked off. And the whole crowd, everybody again went like, "Oh, hey," like a kid got in trouble at school, like, "Hey mate, you're gonna get stabbed, woohoo!" Like it was that was a very scary one as well. That was a scary echo.
So what did you do after that?
Oh, they escorted me out. Like the bar owners and the bartenders and the doorman and that they put me in a blacktop cab outside. They completely escorted me out. It seemed like he was no one to mess around with, this guy, and they knew who he was, and so they just got me in car and got me out of there.
What? You're telling me you essentially made fun of a guy out in the crowd, and he walked up, handed you a beer, and said, "I'll stab you," and they escorted you out. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Well, I finished my show. I did the rest of my time, and then the bar owners and the bartenders and the doorman, they walked me out, put me in the cab, and sent me on my way.
Hey, Paul, that's Tony. We're gonna escort you out. You don't want to fuck with him.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. And I never went back to that venue or really to that.
And I'm never coming back here ever again.
Yeah. So those two stick out in my head as weird heckling experiences.
Now, I got to bring the wife and I have talked about this an awful lot because I'm a big fan of, as you've heard, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, back going like to my younger years, Eddie Murphy, Dane Cook. And what we always wonder is, and Mel and I were literally just talking about this like 2 days ago, is there a lot of thought that goes into the outfit when you're doing, like, I'm going to be on stage, I'm going to put on an outfit? And the guys I'm talking about, they always seem to like the leather, I don't know, man. I heard you talk about the plaid shirt and that. So I assume there's some serious thought that goes into, hey, I'm going to wear this because it's going to elicit it. This is what I look like. But I don't know. Like, what did the comedians talk about with what they're wearing when they walk out to to a live special?
Yeah. So I guess I came up in an era where it didn't matter as much. It was more of the, Zach Galifianakis. Everybody was wearing hoodies and the t-shirts, and it was more hipster. which fits a Canadian wardrobe perfectly. All I really own is hoodies and like a, so in my
You don't
era, it wasn't a
own
big
leather pants and a leather jacket?
no. Not that I'd admit to. Once in a while, the missus makes me put on the red leathers. But but I guess the television specials that I've done. I mean, I did an hour comedy special for the Comedy Network when I was a young man, and then I definitely thought about the wardrobe for sure. But I didn't. That rock star thing was gone. I wasn't going to the leather shop and just getting a nice pair of shoes and a dress shirt and a nice pair of jeans. It was that whole rock star comedy had passed by the time I was coming along.
It's bringing back why we were talking about it, because Kevin Hart had done one here recently in his living room or whatever, wherever it was, and he had like this weird, I don't know, pajama suit on kind of thing, and we're like, well, why does he have somebody looking at him going, that looks great? Like, why would you wear that? Or is it just from where I'm sitting and people are going, you got a backwards hat on a t-shirt, you look like a moron too? I have no idea, Paul. I'm wondering if comedians actually talk about this and are like, you know what you need to do? You need to develop a pajama suit, because a pajama suit is going to look amazing and people are going to talk about this. Like, it's Kevin freaking Hart. Like, why wouldn't he just, I don't know, wear something that looks presentable?
Yeah. Was he doing? I haven't seen it, but was he doing like a COVID? Like, oh, this is my.
That's true. That is true. That is fair. It was a COVID from his house, so maybe that. Hey, now you're making me sound like a jackass. All right, fair. He was doing the pajama suit because he's locked in his house and he can't leave. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I'm an asshole. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Paul. Guy's actually more thought out than I am. All right.
Yeah, but I think the trick is especially if no one knows you, like, when I'm doing gigs in Europe, no one knows who the hell I am. So I think you choose clothes that in comedy, you really only get 15 seconds of a crowd's first impression. And they're going to decide if they like you or not. If you're an unknown person, if they already know who you are, if you're Chappelle or Seinfeld or something, you have their trust immediately. But for an unknown person, you got about 15 seconds, and they're going to decide whether you're going to bomb or whether you're not in those 15 seconds, 15 to 30, about your first joke. So whatever you're wearing, if it could fit your character the best, So if those Europeans are going to look at me like I'm some sort of like dumb Canadian lumberjack, which a lot of them do, then a plaid shirt and a pair of jeans, it's going to fit your character. You're going to find you're going to be a lot more successful. And as far as talking about it beyond that, I think pretty much every comic would agree with that.
15 seconds is a short time, isn't it?
Yeah. You really got to hit them hard, that first one, and then once you got them, you got them. You can go, take them down weird paths after that. But you don't have too much time to make that impression.
Yeah, 15 seconds is a short period of time. I when you do a podcast and you talk to somebody not for 15 seconds, as you have clearly experienced. 15 seconds is like, man, you got to hit them hard. You got to hit them. You must have a nice warmer that you're like, hey, how's it going? Boom. Or do you create new ones all the time then?
Yeah, I try to, because of the tour, I try to create like one real snippy opening a year. But so I have a few of them. And you try to take pride in how short a joke can be, the fewest words possible.
You take pride in that?
Oh yeah. If you could trim the fat on, and just get down a joke shaved down to a few words, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And other comics will be like, God damn, that is fucking good writing.
Wait. And I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot now, but do you have one of those?
So I think the most recent quick opener that I've been using in Europe was last year. I found a lump in my right testicle, and then the whole audience kind of gets taken back, and then I say "your left" because you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I put you on the spot because I'm like, what happens if I don't laugh? Like, right? I'm like, oh, that's gonna be awkward, right? No, that's good. As soon as you mention testicles, it already makes you smile, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, definitely. And you say a lump, then people are going to, be obviously concerned. So it just it gets their attention right away, and then the "your left" thing, then and you're off to the races. So that's I think that's my most proud opener that I really did find a lump, and then I have a whole story that went with that. But that's been my most sharp opening joke for the last couple of years.
now I said at the start of all this before we started recording, if people want to listen more of you, they should go to the Microdose podcast. Now, I'm about to sound really, really dumb because I don't really, you talk about just, no, it's a microdose of you two, yet everything on the image, everything about the podcast suggests microdosing.
Right.
Which, is that part of it then?
I guess in theory, we thought that it would be fun to be microdosed every time we did the podcast, but logistically and it just wouldn't work out. Because I'm in different countries all the time. I'd be hard pressed to find psilocybin in Oslo, not knowing anybody. So it's so I guess that was the theory. And when we came up with the concept, we were microdosing. So and when I asked Damon to do the podcast with me, so it was a bit of both of that. But really, all we promise is it's just a microdose of Damon and Paul every week. So it's a little microdose of funny every week.
Now, this is where I come in sounding really dumb because I don't microdose. And I got to assume that half of my listeners have no idea what I'm even talking about right now. So can you at least explain what the hell you're talking about?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So microdose would be taking a drug for that. I wouldn't like to call it that. Let's say psilocybin or THC or LSD in such a minimal dose that it really doesn't affect you to the point where you're out of control. So I'm talking about minute doses of these products. And the reason why right now it's so popular, and you're seeing a lot of states and Canada's very close to it as well, legalizing, especially psilocybin, is because they're finding that for mental health, and in the hockey world, I'm sure you've already heard this, but it's getting very popular now for post-concussion syndromes, for anxiety, for
so what is it about it though? Like, what, as a guy who's never done it, I sit here and I go, okay, so what is it? I enjoy and partaking in a scotch with you.
Yeah.
What is it about microdosing that is just like, I don't know, why is everybody slowly turning to it? Like you say, I absolutely have heard about it in Canada. I've certainly heard about it a lot more in recent days, and probably the last like 3-4 months. And if you go back at, a couple of years, certainly heard about it back then. And it just seems like it's coming up more and more and more. And that's why I want to talk about it is more so just for awareness of what it is and why it's becoming prevalent. So what is it about it?
So what they're finding is that, and I'm going to also say that I am by no means an expert. Yeah, I'm not a doctor, and I am well read on it, and I do believe in the benefits for mental health. But what they're finding is especially with psilocybin, your brain can make new neural pathways. So basically new connections. So if you're, let's say, an ex-hockey player that has a lot of concussions and post-career you're suffering from anxiety and depression, these new neural passageways can make a new connection in your brain that that can be very positive, and you can start retraining your brain, and you can that's basically the concept around it. It's basically taking an electrician and pulling some of those plugs out and putting them in other places, and they're finding. I mean, it is about to get legalized, and it is legalized in a lot of states, and scientists and some doctors have been using these methods before the war on drugs, especially if you're talking about things like ayahuasca. Ayahuasca they were using to cure alcoholism and post-traumatic stress disorder way before the war on drugs. I mean, back in the 60s, with an 86% success rate for addictions, 86% for alcohol and for drugs. They were using ayahuasca to
what is this? I'm going to once again assume 86 is like, wow. Like that is a big
huge
number. I'm going to assume a lot of people here, maybe people don't want to know, but what is ayahuasca? I'm going to assume that a few people have never heard of it before or don't understand.
Yeah, so ayahuasca comes from South America. Peru is where you could go for most of your ayahuasca retreats. They do have them on Vancouver Island. They do have some in Mexico. They call it a medicine. It is a root. It is a natural root. Basically, when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. Well, that's just a chemical that's released into your brain just before you die. Now, ayahuasca basically just pulls that cord and releases that chemical. So basically, you're dealing with all your fears, and at one time, it's all hitting you at once. So it's basically, they say it's kind of like the Coles Notes to enlightenment is what they're saying. So you go down there if you're suffering from addictions and things like that. Obviously, a lot of that is packed into your past, So this makes you face all those truths that you've been hiding. All the demons. So it forces you to do it, and it's awful. You spend 8 hours vomiting in a bucket, and it's scary. And but yeah, do your own research. I mean, I'm not even really. I've never done ayahuasca. I'm not telling your listeners to go do it, but it's hard to ignore the movement that's happening right now. I mean, all these things are coming into the public, mainstream, and if you're it's just interesting to read about. So my podcast partner, he is one of the guys that did go down to do ayahuasca, and he had unbelievable success with it. I mean, completely changed his life.
How so?
Well, he's a little bit older than I am, and I don't want to talk about his business, but he was able to let go of some things that were plaguing him, and that was years ago, and he's still good to go. And it was 1 week ceremony, and he had to face all his demons and coming out the other side. And another one of our buddies who's an actor who was plagued with depression and addiction to alcohol. He did it at the same time. I believe it was 6 years ago. And he didn't touch it. He still hasn't touched a beer. I mean, it's not like it's even an effort. He just got back, and he just didn't. There was no point to touch he has zero craving for alcohol. Zero. He just hasn't touched it. So it's quite incredible.
It sounds incredible. Like,
yeah.
I mean that in like I don't mean that in the sense that I'm hopping a flight out to Vancouver tomorrow to go do it. I mean that in the sense that I feel like you search in life as you get older for incredible experiences or whatever, what have you. And one I've been raving on lately, and everybody's laughing at me, is natural honey. That's an experience I've had where I take it at night with just tea, and I sleep unbelievable. And the more I research it, the more I find that, oh wait, like pure honey is actually a natural remedy for sleep. And especially if the bees have grown up where you grew up, right? They're in your area. There's a lot of properties in that are very beneficial. And you're like, what's incredible about it isn't that it works, is that it works so well. It's so evident. Like the next day, it's evident. Like, what the hell was that? And when I hear you talk about ayahuasca, it's not that you go racing to go do it. It's not like it's AC/DC coming in Edmonton. You're like, oh fuck, I gotta go hear those guys live. You know?
Yeah.
It's what's incredible about it, or what hearing about it is that's interesting to me, is that it's something that immediately you can see a change in people, and for good things, right? Like, not like so much of what we hear about drugs is like, if you try, let's use something popular. A popular drug right now is probably, weed is also obviously been across the country, but let's go with something a little further. Let's go cocaine. And cocaine, there's this definite, once again, like very negative spot on it for rightful reasons, because a lot of people who do that never come back from it.
Yes.
And that is evident to the population. But what you're talking about, and the reason why I'm just curious about it, because once again, your podcast is the microdose, right? And although it's a play on words, you've said it in the beginning, and that's what it was. And I'm just curious about it. And I gotta say, I love that you go, I'm not a doctor, and I want to, but if people have listened that long or this long, they understand at this point that we're not doctors here. We're just talking about things that are, well, evident, noticeable. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah. And, I guess the nice thing about ayahuasca and psilocybin is they're not addictive. I mean, they're in no way. It's not like cocaine where you're like, okay, you do it once and you're like, well, I'm doing it for 15 years. There's no, or alcohol. There isn't that drawback to those things. It is, when you do ayahuasca, you're never want to do it again, ever. It's so, it doesn't have that quality about it. So there's really no reason not to have an open mind about it. And I'm really happy. I just listened to an ex-hockey player. He was an enforcer that's using microdosing for psilocybin, and how.
And who's that?
It was on Spitting Chicklets. It was it was maybe 4 episodes ago. I'm going to try to think of the name. I've been trying to think of it for a couple of minutes, so I don't think it's going to come to me. But he started a company where he's going to, look at about 4 episodes ago. If it's getting into that level of our popular culture, if hockey players are seeing the benefits of it, I think it's something
Grattan?
I think it's something you got. Grattan. Yeah, Grattan. Yeah, Grattan. It was Grattan, and he's using it, and he's completely cured. He's doing a lot better. And that guy was in serious trouble in really dark place. So you listen to that interview, it's just so cool that that there's a different option rather than a chemical. And he's not getting high on mushrooms. He's just doing you don't even feel it. It's just a minute level of it, just a little bit. You don't even feel a buzz. And it just helps with those neural pathways.
No, it's cool. Like I say, the reason I wanted to go pick on it a little bit is, once again, you got a podcast, and I know it's play on words and everything else, but I think it's just, you got to expand your mind a little bit. You got to just open your mind to a couple different ideas and see what it is, and whether it's there for you or not. I could care less. I'm not running this, like I said earlier, I'm not running to Vancouver to go do it, but I do find it interesting that it's evident. And there's very few things in life that come along that are just evident, like, wow, that worked or that didn't work. I mean, it can go both ways.
Yeah. And, for me, I don't think people would describe me as somebody that suffers from a lot of depressions. I'm usually a pretty jovial guy. I have my bad days like everybody, but I still find a lot of success in staying away from lots of carbohydrates, and exercising for me is equally, this is just another positive thing you could do for yourself. I think, just another thing in your arsenal. And along with, CBD oil is another huge one right now that, which is derived from, cannabis. But again, there's no THC in it. There's no quality to actually get you high. But people are, it's an anti-inflammatory, so it's gonna help in a lot of different ways for people. And it's people, I think, are starting to have a bit more of an open mind about these things. So I think it's really cool.
Well, that's one of the cool things about internet, Zoom calls, podcasts, everything like this. It's just expanded the world. So, or shrunk the world, whichever way you want to go. It's allowed access to really smart ideas that, come on, man. I'm sitting in Lloyd, you're sitting in Paris. It's just, even in what we're doing right now, if you just had the old ways 100 years ago, you wouldn't know anything outside of where you're at, and I wouldn't either. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of positives that came off of those old ways. But in our current world, there's a lot of positives that come off of being able to expand the world, being able to talk to people on the other side, or bring in and hear the expert from, I don't know, Connecticut, but you're sitting in Lloyd. Like that's really cool of what we have right now.
Yeah, it's great. The access is amazing right now.
Yeah. And 99% of it is free, which is even better.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Yeah. And I just actually I watched a documentary last night about it, but I love this quote where they said, they were talking about if you put it in a sports analogy. So they said, well, if you had a hockey team and they were, since 1900, they've never made the playoffs ever. Just, that can't be the players. Like, it can't be the human race since the beginning of a hockey. Eventually, you're going to fire your coaches and your front end staff, and you're going to come at it with a different system. And that's how they explained what's going on now with that microdose world. I think they're firing the front office of pharmaceuticals and some of those old ways that we used to do things. They've changed the front end staff and realizing a benefit for it, I think.
That's in it. For all my hockey player listeners, they're going, you haven't made the playoffs in 120 years? What the hell is going on? Fire everyone. Fire everyone now. The culture. Yeah. It's culture. It's not McDavid. It's culture.
Oh man, we're in business this year. We got the playoffs locked. I can't wait for this all Canadian division.
Man,
jacked, man.
You know what? Everybody always rags on. Well, not rags on. It's easy to look at COVID and look at all the restrictions that put on everyone and like all the negativity. I get everything about it, but, and a big but, in my opinion, is like, look at some of the cool possibilities that's grown. And one of them was the NHL playoffs we had. Now it's the all Canadian division. Like, how fucking cool is this? Tell me as a kid, you didn't think, why can't all the Canadian teams just play each other? Like, wouldn't that be cool?
Oh yeah. And especially having it like more of a baseball series where you go to town and you play, 3 games in a row. Again, it's a mini playoffs every week all over Canada. Like it is. I am so jacked for it. I already got my NHL package paid for. They sent me an email. I was like, hell yeah, you can charge me whatever the hell you want. I'm kidding. So I got it on the TV here in France. I'm fucking ready to go. Oh man, it's gonna be fireworks out there. It's gonna be so fun.
I'm excited. Now the question I have then is, where do the Oilers finish? You got a prediction on that?
Yeah, me and my old man were talking about this, and I think, with the risk of not being, I know this is a big
you're being
podcast,
too biased, or are you going to shit on them? Where are you going here?
I think that we're going to be behind Toronto at the top.
You think Toronto's at the top?
Yeah. I think it's going to be Toronto, then the Oilers in the second slot.
Interesting. I hope you're right. Well, I hope Toronto. I hope Edmonton's at the top. I'm not going to lie, but
yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I love the Oilers. I really do. But in saying that, you can't argue with Toronto. When you look at Toronto over the last, what has it even been? The last 5 years, maybe? Like, they've been very successful, but they play out of a division with Tampa Bay and Boston. They've met Boston every freaking year, and we all laugh at them when they can't win. But, I mean, they're playing Boston, and Boston is one of the top, 3-4 teams in the league the last 5 years. I have a hard time, I'm going to throw a wild card out there because everybody will laugh, but they just signed a local kid in Braden Holtby. And the Vancouver Canucks, when you watch them play, there's something fun to watch about them. I wish the Oilers would adopt a little more of it. They work their asses off.
Yeah.
And there's no, you just can't replace that. There's no, you can have all the talent in the world. Well, hell, Canada just played Slovakia, and it was a 1-0 game going in the third period, and there was I don't know, what was it, 5 minutes left, I want to say? Not even. There was 3 minutes left. And the reason why they were still in the game and Canada couldn't score is because Canada was trying to do the nonchalant, fancy, you got all the talent in the world, and they should be up 10-0. But the other team just fucking works their bag off and just works and never relents. That's kind of Vancouver. Yeah. Now my Vancouver friends are going to say, I got all these guys. Well, you do. You got a talented team. But the Oilers got Draisaitl and McDavid and Nuge, and they got some players. They got some absolute. Oh my God. But I look at it and I go, the Oilers haven't shown me enough where they are top, and I could see where Vancouver is floating in there. Now, screw all you Calgary Flames fans. I hope they are at the very bottom of the division. And
Amen.
God.
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah, fuck. My buddy called me on it because I was like, I hate Kachuk so bad. And he was like, well, if he was an Oiler, you would love him. And I was like, I would not. And he thought, but I guess I guess he's right. If Matty was an Oiler, we'd be like, mix it up, Matty. Come on, buddy. Good job. But there's no more frustrating hockey player in the NHL right now than fucking Tkachuk. I hate
Zach Kassian. Breaks Gagne's jaw. You fucking hate him.
Yeah.
Now he's on our team. You love him. It's simple as that. If Tkachuk was on our team, we'd love him.
Yeah.
Can't say the same thing about Johnny Hockey. He kind of bothers me. But it's fair. If you were going to take one Calgary Flame over the entire Flames history to bring on the Oilers, who would you take in their prime?
Terry Crisp.
Terry Crisp?
I'm just doing it.
Come on!
I just tried to think of the most obscure Flame. So, the Flames today or any Flame of all time?
Any Flame, all time.
Oh,
all time.
Man.
We're talking the Lanny McDonalds, the Theo Fleury's, the Doug Gilmour, the Jerome McGinley,
Kipper,
Al McInnes, Kipper. Yeah.
Rick Natras.
Or Hawk and Lube, baby. Bring him over.
Oh, man. Wow. Oh, that's a tough question. Yeah, but you got to go. If it's coming to the Oilers, to my team, I got to go with Ginla because that guy was so solid, never got hurt, unbelievable human. I'm going Iggy. And if there's a Flame that I love, it's a Ginla. And I can't name another Flame that I loved, but I did love Iggy.
If you didn't say Iggy, I probably would have hung up this call. That's the one I have. That's the only one. Everybody will talk about. They can say anyone else they want. Ginla is a guy that you're like, God, I fucking hate the Oilers. The Flames.
Yeah.
But if he came across, and even for him to win a cup there, I would have been mad at the Flames, but I would have been happy for Iggy. That guy, he did everything right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything.
classy St. Albert kid. Like he's just the best. He's just the best. And yeah, just a great guy. And all the the Olympics. How do you not love Iggy? Yeah, he's just wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, well, before I hold you here too long, and now my bottle of scotch is empty, so that's partly part of the problem, is we're going to do the Crewmaster Final Five. So a huge shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald, supporters of the podcast since the very beginning. 5 quick questions, long, short, you want to go? Here we go. If you could sit down with one person, who would you take? And you know what? Normally I say dead or alive, but from now on, I think I'm going to say alive. I like somebody who tomorrow, if you wanted, you could have hop on the microdose.
My biggest Letterman. I would really, really badly. Letterman. Hands down, Letterman.
Have you watched his show on Netflix?
Absolutely. And I just what a great man. And to just give it all up and go to Montana and grow a beard and do your own Netflix thing. Like everything he did with his career, it was like a veteran that won the Stanley Cup and then retired that second and walked away. It was perfect. He is the benchmark in comedy, I'd say.
So if I get Letterman, I'm going to send you that link because I'm certainly on my list because I also watch that show and he's fantastic. He's one of the best interviewers that I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's your favorite guest on his show? His current show on Netflix?
Well, Obama, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess Obama because it was just.
It's Obama.
It was historic. Like Obama.
People can hate or love Obama. It doesn't really much matter. But you get that guy for an hour and sit and listen to him talk, you aren't but engaged. Frig, that guy is smooth. Like he just unbelievable.
And so inspiring. Every time you listen to him talk, you feel like you can make change in the world. Do good. Do good for yourself. Do good for others. He's just an inspiring man. Love that guy.
If you could perform in one place that you haven't performed yet. No, if you could perform in one place. If you could go back, no matter where it is, and perform in front of a full house. So we're talking, you can get 100,000 people to come see Paul. That's cool. But where do you want to perform that you haven't or have?
Well, Carnegie. I would Carnegie or Radio City Music Hall, but I would say Carnegie is number one. Carnegie Hall, New York would be a dream.
What is it about Carnegie? The reason that I say that is I've heard that come up not with comics, but I think Glenn Healy just like that's why it's sprouting to my mind. He plays the bagpipes and got to play the bagpipes at Carnegie. I'm shitting you not. Like, is it just the history?
Yeah, totally. To know like every human that's walked on the planks on that stage are just like, oh man,
legendary.
Just legendary. Just walking on the same piece of wood that Sinatra. Like everybody played that venue. So, and I think it's a cool. I mean, if you play Carnegie on your own name, that's it. You're done. You've made it. No doubt about it. So I think that would be my choice for sure.
If you could open for one show, open for one comedian, who are you taking? Somebody tomorrow is calling your phone. Boom, Paul, we need you. Who are you going for?
So dead or alive or alive?
No, I'm going to give you the free range. I'll give you the free range.
Hedberg, Mitch Hedberg.
Mitch Hedberg.
Mitch Hedberg, yeah. That would be if I could open for any person, be Hedberg.
Really?
Yeah. He was my I absolutely adored Mitch, and basically was doing an impression of him when I first started. I just he'll always for me, Hedberg, hands down.
Current one comic, one comedian that we should all look up that we don't know about. So obviously we've talked a lot about the Chappelle of the world, the Bill Burr, but who's one guy that people probably don't know about?
I would say, and maybe people know, yeah, okay, so I did a comedy competition in Seattle in 2006. There wouldn't be a name in comedy that hasn't done this competition. It's a month-long competition all over Washington State. Every comedian in America does it. You need a vouch to get into it from a past finalist to get you into the competition. So the guy that vouched for me is my podcast partner, Damon Schritter.
No kidding.
Yeah. So he placed third in the competition before I even started comedy. And then I said, I'd really like to do this. Can you vouch? He said, sure. And then he's like, I'll tell you what, I'll go with you. I'll go back into the competition. We'll travel together. And I was like, oh, really?
Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah. So we went down. We did a month together in Seattle, and no Canadian had ever won it. And Damon, my podcast partner, was the first Canadian to ever win it. I came in second. He beat me by a couple of points. Son of a bitch.
Fuck Damon.
And fuck Damon. Yeah. And still every week holds it over my head. And in third place, and it's funny, they have that competition has been running for years. They say the spot you want is third because whoever places third in this competition becomes famous. And it happened. Our good friend Rory Scovel, who I don't know if you know that name, but that's why I'm going to mention it here because he's a well-known guy, but hasn't quite hit the superstardom yet. He's on his way, but he's had Netflix specials. He had his own NBC sitcom. But if you don't know Rory, you gotta listen to him. You have to. He is phenomenal, and he does a thing that he calls surfing. So keep in mind when you watch him, and Damon, my partner, does it now too, and I'm trying to, but he goes on stage with nothing in mind. He doesn't have prepared material. So when Rory does a special, it's all off the top of his head, and it's super funny. It's a talent that I wish I one day can learn. So if you don't know Rory, get into Rory. He's amazing.
Well, and he said, "Do you know who he is?" I'm like, can't say I've ever heard of him. But now that you look up, just recently he was on Harley Quinn TV series or Robbie the TV series or super. Like he's got his list of things he's been on just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and he's sort of getting the male lead in some movies. Like Amy Schumer's new movie, he was the male lead in that. Like he's a very successful guy. Podcast on Conan O'Brien's network and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, get into Rory and just keep in mind that he's just talking off the top of his head. And if you have, it's just incredible.
Incredible. Okay, your final one. Let's take you back to whenever you want. So I want you to think of SNL. You're going to go to Saturday Night Live for one show. You can be a part of any of it. What skit and what actors do you want to be a part with it?
Oh, hands down, Christina Applegate, David Spade, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, when Chris Farley was the motivational speaker and fell through the table.
Van down by the river?
Yeah.
Oh my God. If kids don't know what that is, look that up right now.
Yeah. For sure. I would, no question about it. That's the one I want.
God, would he, if I could have guests on that have passed away, Chris Farley is definitely in the list. Man, he was talented, just funny. And it's so evident in that skit where everybody's trying to hold it together, but they can't anymore because it's just what is going on here?
Yeah, David Spade's got his hand over his face the whole time, crying, laughing. And just before the podcast started, I don't know why, I was watching Farley being introduced on the Letterman show. Remember when he runs from the back and shakes all the audience members? picks a guy up, throws him in the trash in the alley. Like, he was just dynamite, man. Dynamite.
Oh, shit. That's good. That's good. Well, sir, I have thoroughly enjoyed having you on. I'm glad the internet worked this time and we got to do it, but really appreciate you hopping on, and all the best to you here in the future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to get to know you, and I can't wait to see you and Lloyd. We'll have a beer in the Harley garage real soon.
Hey, folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumble on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.